They always say to stay on the trail when you're hiking. It's easy to get lost and disoriented. But getting lost wasn't our only problem, because whatever that thing was, it was smart, too smart, and downright evil. My best friend Luke had just come out of a brutal breakup, and I was trying to crawl my way out of a burnout from work. We always hiked together, but this trip was going to be different. This time, rather than a day trip, we were heading on a 3-day excursion through the mountains of Colorado. But this wasn't your ordinary, well-traveled trail. This one had lore, rumors. We found a decade-old forum about it. Most of it was nonsense, blurry photos, dramatic stories, and one guy claiming he saw a woman made of moss. But a few posts stood out. They didn't try to scare you. They warned you to follow the rules. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what the rules were. The first, always stay on the trail, even if you see something or someone you think you recognize. The second, never say your name out loud or the name of anyone in your hiking group, no matter how quiet you are. The third, if you hear someone calling your name, do not respond. And the last, if you think you hear someone in the woods behind you, do not turn around unless your partner does at the exact same time. Yeah, crazy rules, I know. But the truth is, Luke and I laughed when we read them. We arrived at the base of this mountain around 6 p.m. and parked in a small gravel lot. But there was already something off. The lot was completely empty, except for one other car that looked like it hadn't been moved in months. I remember looking over the hood at Luke, who was stepping out and geared up. Man, this place is kinda creepy. He laughed and said, "Yeah, make sure you don't say my name out loud." I chuckled, but the truth is, I got chills when he said that. I had forgotten about the rules on the drive in, but now I was thinking I might follow them. We finished securing our packs and tying our shoes and began the journey. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who gets this, but there's a feeling I always seem to get at the beginning of a hike. It's usually as soon as I step onto the trail under the shaded canopy of trees. It's hard to explain. It's like a mix of anxiety and excitement. Maybe it's because I know what we're about to do isn't 100% safe. But this time, that feeling was pronounced, much stronger than it had been in the past. I followed behind Luke as we walked in silence, both adjusting to the subtle sound of the leaves rustling in the gentle wind and the occasional distant bird call. Suddenly, something behind me zipped across the trail, letting out a quiet shriek noise. It was so close and sudden that the hair on the back of my neck stood up as I flinched and turned around. Heart pounding, I scanned the still forest behind me. But then I noticed it. A small bird on a branch, maybe 20 feet away, staring directly at me, probably guarding its nest. I let out a sigh of relief as I turned around to see Luke smirking at me. Better keep an eye on those birds. They can be dangerous. He turned and continued walking, chiming in once more. By the way, you already broke the fourth rule. We continued to walk as the sun got lower in the sky and a more cool, crisp air rolled in. Luke was clearly calm, enjoying the nature, stopping to look at interesting plants and mushrooms. But something stayed at the back of my mind. The noise that I assumed to be that bird. It was so strange, so close. It felt intentional in my ear. But like I said, the trail was getting darker. Maybe I was just giving myself the heebie-jeebies for no reason. Anyway, not long after, we decided to stop and set up camp for the night. Luke started a fire and I set up the tent. When I finished, I sat down on a log to give my legs a break, and Luke went off to get more firewood. I sat there, staring into the flames, when suddenly, the same noise from the trail before pierced my ears again. Only this time, much louder, and definitely not a bird. I swung around quickly, expecting to see Luke playing a trick on me, but he wasn't there. There was nothing there. The forest was completely still. Seconds later, Luke walked out of the tree line with firewood, nowhere close to where the sound came from. This was the first moment on that hike I remember feeling genuinely nervous. I remember following my breath, in and out, trying to calm myself down without letting Luke know what was going on. I told myself that it was probably in my head, that my anxiety was playing tricks on me, that I had to calm myself down or else I'd just make it worse. Luke sat down beside me and reached in his bag. Now, I'm not a big drinker, but I had never been so excited to see a bottle of vodka in my life. We let the drinks flow, and sure enough, my anxiety about the noises disappeared. We joked around, listened to music on a small Bluetooth speaker, and made the fire way too big. But when I woke up, that carefree energy had left me completely. Heavy raindrops tapped on the tent as I stepped outside. Luke was already awake, tidying up from the night before. Yeah, we liked to have fun, but we were always responsible. Anyway, we picked up from yesterday and continued on the trail. Luke was still walking in front of me, but he seemed to have a little less spring in his step. I figured it was from the drinks last night. Plus, like I mentioned, he was going through a brutal breakup, and let's face it, nobody feels better after a night of drinking. At some point, Luke stopped walking, dropped his pack at the side of the trail, and said, "Just gotta take a leak." He went left into the brush, just far enough to where I could no longer see him. I stood there in the middle of the trail, contemplating if I should do the same, when suddenly, clear as day, I heard my name. It was coming from the right side of the trail, opposite to where Luke went in. Again, my heart pounded in my chest and a chill ran deep through my entire body. I scanned the forest, but nothing, not even a bird or a squirrel. Then a feeling washed over me, a feeling that something was wrong, very wrong. But it wasn't because of the sound. I felt like I was being watched. The hair on the back of my neck stood up as I turned around slowly. There was Luke, standing still about 10 feet off the trail where he went in. The rain beaded off his raincoat hood and soaked his bangs. But what freaked me out the most was the way he looked at me. It was so unnatural, a look I'd never seen from my friend before. It was unfamiliar. He stared at me, eyes wide, pupils dilated, almost like he didn't recognize me. Wait, let me rephrase that. He looked at me like he had never seen another human before. His head was cocked slightly to the right. I was so caught off guard, I actually took a step back. "Luke?" I said. Somehow his eyes got wider. His expression changed to a look of surprise, almost. "Oh, it's you," he said. I was shocked. "What do you mean, oh, it's me? Of course it's me. Are you good, dude?" Yeah, I'm fine," he said, walking toward me and stepping out of the woods. But this was way too weird to just let go, especially with the whispering, the person saying my name. I questioned him. I mean, who else would it be? You were looking right at me, and why'd you call my name? He kinda just dead stared, not into my eyes, but past them, maybe to the side of my face if that makes sense. But all he said was, "I don't know who else it could be." His voice trailed off. He stood there looking out of it, dazed, hungover maybe, soaking wet, terrified and cold. I looked at him and insisted we leave. He didn't put up an argument, just kind of nodded his head disassociated. But then he locked eyes with me and raised his arm slowly, pointing down the trail. "But you go first this time," he said. This gave me max chills. It's a pretty normal request, so I don't know why. Maybe it was his body language, that look in his eye of nobody's home, or the insincere inflection in his voice. A tone of, "You lead the way, but we're not going home." We walked for hours. The whole time I was telling myself, this will be over soon. Eventually we'll be out of here. But then, out of nowhere, a fork in the trail that wasn't there before. I guess the mix of fear and exhaustion boiled over because I let out a, "Oh, what the f***?" I looked back at Luke. Somehow he still had the same look on his face. He looked at the two trails in front of us, scanned them for a second, and then he looked back at me without saying a word. It was as if he didn't care. I completely lost it. "Dude, what is wrong with you?" I said, shaking him desperately. "What's going on? Did something happen?" Again, he slowly shifted his gaze to me, silent. But then he spoke. "This morning," he said, his voice shaky. "It was before you had gotten up." I could tell he was freaked out, and honestly, I was a bit scared to know what was coming next. He continued. "I was out cleaning up garbage from last night and packing. I heard a branch snap about 50 feet away. When I looked over, I saw you. At least, I thought it was you at first. You were in a tree, crouched down, like some kind of animal. I yelled your name, but you didn't respond. You just stared at me, like you wanted to eat me." I backed up, shocked at what he was telling me. "And then what happened?" I asked. "And then you came out of the tent. When I looked back up, that thing in the tree was gone. Back there, when I came out of the woods, I couldn't tell if it was you or if it was that thing again." I looked at him slowly. "And what makes you so sure it's me now?" I asked. Slowly, he raised his hand, pointing behind me. "Because it's here," he said. Every hair on my body stood up as I turned around slowly. It took me a second to see it. It was high up in the tree. Shocked, I stumbled backward as I got a good look at this thing. It was like me, looked exactly like me. Its eyes were dilated, making them almost completely black, but it moved quickly, in a jerky motion. The same quick, abrupt head movements that you'd expect to see from a lizard or something. It looked human, yes, but it clearly wasn't. It sat there, eyes darting between both of us. Then it opened its mouth and called my name. It was the exact same call I heard earlier on the trail, but the strange thing was, this thing never broke eye contact. Its expression never changed. It just continued to watch, almost as if it was expecting the call to work, even though we were looking directly at it. Whatever it was, it could imitate very well, but it clearly failed to understand that we were onto it. I snapped back, looking at the fork in the trail, then turned to Luke. He was pale, soaked, his bangs stuck to his forehead, but his expression was contemplating, like he was thinking. He looked at both trails, then back at me. "One of them is real," he said. "One of them isn't." I started down the left path, but then I stopped. I don't know how to explain it, but something about it felt off. Not just quiet, it was dead quiet. Luke and I looked at each other, no words, just this unspoken understanding. We both stepped back and we turned toward the right trail. That's when this thing started again. Luke, 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 Luke. The thing in the tree, over and over again, mechanically repeating those calls, almost panicking when we started to take the right trail. We looked at each other and bolted right. Behind me, I could hear Luke's boots pounding in the dirt, and then his voice. "Hey, wait!" I slowed, just for a second, then I heard it again. Same voice, same tone. Almost perfect. "Don't turn around, that's not me, just keep running." Branches scraped at my arms, my breath came in ragged gasps. I wasn't even thinking anymore, I was just moving, running on pure terror. And then, light. The trees opened up and suddenly we were out, back into the parking lot. We stumbled into the open, gasping for air. I dropped my knees and Luke collapsed beside me. We sat in silence for a second, trying to catch our breath and process what had just happened. But then, from deep in the woods behind us, "Luke, Luke, Luke, Luke." The voice was now all wrong, too fast, stuck in a loop, and it wasn't calm anymore. It was angry. It sounded like it was unraveling, desperate, like it knew we had gotten away. We didn't say a word. We just sat there, soaking wet, staring into the tree line, until the voice finally faded. Hey everyone, I wanted to say a huge thank you for 100 subscribers. It may not sound like much, but it's actually a huge milestone for my channel, so I really appreciate you guys watching. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers!